everyone, and after a very long hiatus again, welcome back to the B&E podcast. I'm Bryce Gelman, and as always, I'm joined by Evan Kamiko. Evan, we're finally back.
We are our second hiatus in 3 months. I don't know. We tend to have like a good streak where we'll do like 4 or 5 shows in a row, and then we'll go
after
off
this
for
one.
2
I'm
months.
sure. I'm just saying after this one, I feel like we'll be good. I feel like we'll be solid.
We're coming back. We're finally having time. Golf season is over, so that definitely helps me. I played well last weekend. I shot a 37 on the back nine last weekend.
That's very good.
I know.
I
played insane. I shot a 46 on the front, so I played terrible. But I had a great back, and my drive's gone. But this is a complete story for another time. This is like an overtime.
I think people would love to hear about that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think people would love to hear about your golf game.
My golf game is so entertaining. My golf, everyone hangs up. I mean,
everyone's gone.
Everyone leaves the. I mean, we don't even usually have enough people who watch the show this far in anyway.
Yeah.
So we could just talk about our golf
30
game
seconds.
For now. Exactly. They hear the intro. They're like, oh, so what are these guys talking about this week that don't matter? And we're done. But no, this is a big week in sports. There are sports still, thank God, even though they're ending. The NHL ended last week. The Lightning won the Stanley Cup. If you didn't already know that, we're not going to talk about that because neither of us know hockey for shit.
Congratulations, Tampa Bay.
Woo, your first championship in like 15 years for something.
I think it was the first ever.
Really? Too bad the Buccaneers aren't going to win the Super Bowl this year. That's an even more shame for Tampa Bay.
We'll get to that.
But football is coming up right now. Let's talk baseball. Bryce, I know you want to lead this one out because we're going to avoid talking about the Yankees because Game 5, this is going to be out today. Will be Saturday, but the Yankees game would have been last night, Friday. So we're going to try to avoid talking about that so it doesn't look weird.
Oh no, I 100% will, and whatever people see tomorrow, it could be completely invalid. It probably will be completely invalid. But what I'm going to talk about is relevant to what's happening now, what's going on with the Yankees. But the fact of the matter is, this is one of the most important games, I think, in Yankee recent memory, in Yankee history. The last time we've seen an elimination game was, I think, the 2017 like an actual elimination game in the ALDS where we could potentially lose to a team other than Houston Astros. Was, I think, in 2017 the ALDS when we beat Cleveland. We beat Cleveland in the AL wildcard this year. But the Yankees, this is do or die. This is a now or never moment. We're giving the ball to our ace, Garrett Cole. We made a huge mistake in game 2 with the opener. We completely strayed away from what we usually do, which is just stick to the script. Actually, no. The problem was that we stuck too much to the script. You can't script out postseason games. The fact of the matter is that Aaron Boone has a lot less say than people think he does. I think it comes mostly these decisions from the front office and Brian Cashman. Brian Cashman has been in San Diego. He's been making a lot of these decisions with his analytics team. So a lot of the blame could not be placed on Aaron Boone, but at the same time, some of this needs to fall on someone. I'm just saying it was a huge mistake. I think Kevin Cash, he knew that they potentially could do something. I don't think he was exactly expecting it because that's the Rays thing. The Rays start with an opener. But if you're gonna start Deivi Garcia, especially as a 21-year-old rookie, you leave him in. You don't take him out for J-Happ the next inning. It doesn't make any sense. And we lost that game, completely shifted the momentum. Thank God we won last night because if we did not win last night, Aaron Boone was probably going to get fired.
Yeah, and that's kind of the bummer of it is that it wasn't Aaron Boone's call on using Deivi Garcia as an opener. In my opinion, it looked like the Yankees were trying to beat the Rays at their own game.
Exactly.
But you're the New York Yankees. You have 27 rings. A-Rod said this the best a couple of days ago, so I'm going to pretty much mimic exactly what he said because I completely agree with it. Your game is power pitching. Your game is power. You're not a small market team. You're the New York Yankees. You're not Tampa Bay. You're not Oakland. So the fact that Cashman's trying to beat the Rays at their own game instead of, rely on his game, the New York Yankee style, which has worked and gotten them 27 rings to this point, is absolutely beyond me. They deserve to lose that game. That was an embarrassment to New York. They are very lucky they are in Game 5 right now. Very lucky.
I wouldn't say lucky.
I would say lucky after that.
We've shown over the series that our lineup is significantly better than the Rays lineup. They have great players who can hit. Occasionally, they have Rosarena is a future star, honestly, or he's really hot because he's the hottest I've ever seen anyone.
I think he's just really hot. No,
but
I think Daniel Murphy in the 2015 run for the Mets when they went on that run to the World Series was hotter than a Rosarena.
To be fair, To be fair, Rosarena was just traded for absolutely no one. They got him from the Cardinals exactly like the Yankees got Luke Voigt. Two players the Cardinals gave up. Sorry for them. But Rosarena was a complete afterthought. He was barely playing last postseason with the Cardinals, and then he gets traded for this season.
And
he comes to the Rays, and he gets his chance, and he goes off throughout the month of September and into the postseason. Good for him. I don't know if he can keep it up. But, last night, I think he went 0 for 4. I think Gumby, Jordan Montgomery was able to shut him down. But we as the Yankees need to play our own game. We have a better lineup than them. Garrett Cole's on the mound. He's our one good starting pitcher right now. So we have at least some advantage tonight. There's obviously, when you play the Rays, it's always in the back of your mind that they have a much better bullpen than you. The Yankees have always had one of the best bullpens in the league, but I think the Rays have proved in the last 2 seasons that their bullpen is just that much better than any other teams. Because Kevin Cash had 12 different people who had saves this past season in 60 games. The Yankees only had 1. Okay, So the Yankees obviously, their setup. They're going to go Green, they're going to go Britton, and then they're going to go Chapman. But with the Rays, you have no idea who's ever. It could be anyone. It could be Thompson, who started the game last night. It could be Diego Castillo. It could be Chaz Rowe. It could be all these guys who have sub-2 ERAs. These guys are all like number 1 relievers on other teams.
And then you have to remember, you have Tyler Glass now on the mound.
He's only off 2 days rest. Snell. 2 days rest. It's scary.
But he's gonna give you about 3-4 innings, is my guess. I don't see him going too far into the game.
And I think they go Blake Snell after, to be honest.
Yeah, they could. And now you can have Blake Snell out of the bullpen. If I'm New York, I'm a little nervous. But at the end of the day, if your lineup is actually hitting like it's game 1 or game 4, there's nothing to worry about if I'm the New York Yankees. But if Cashman and Boone try to do, the whole starter thing, which they did, I know they won't. It's not going to
Garrett Cole on the mound. It's that's never gonna be in.
But if they try to do that, that's Boone deserves to get fired if they try to do that. Like, don't beat their own game. Beat them at your own game. That's what you're good at. Do what you're good at.
And people forget that this is a time when Aaron Judge is 2 for, I think, his last 30. He is in such a slump right now. He's an absolute automatic out every time he comes to the plate unless he walks. But if I were the Rays, I'd pitch straight to him. He can't hit the ball unless you hang him a slider or you hang him a breaking ball over the middle of the plate. Yeah. He has not been hitting fastballs in. He's not been hitting the slider outside. That's his problem. He swings at that slider down and outside, and
the one that starts off the edge of the plate and then
with righties. Yeah. But like, I don't know if you want to pitch Blake Snell against Aaron Judge. Judge did take him deep in the first game. So
I think if I'm the Rays, I use Snell in the situation that I need him. If it's like the 5th inning, like if it's the 7th or 8th inning, I'd still bring in Blake Snell if Aaron Judge isn't up. If it's like the bottom of your order and you need to get outs and you're going to have one of your guys next, I don't know the Rays bullpen really that well, but if you're gonna have someone like Curtis, who didn't look great in game 1 but rebounded nicely, or Castillo, those are guys that you're gonna want to pitch against, Judge, Stanton, and stuff. But Snell could give you easy outs to the bottom of the Yankee order. I mean, there's no reason he can't. But the problem, it's gonna be smart. But that's all depending on what happens, And unfortunately, how the playoffs work now, we can't get this out by the time the game starts. So this is all of us guessing what's going to happen tonight, which is really last night if you're watching this.
Yeah. And talking about Snell and talking about situational, pitching with the Rays, this is a completely different scenario than one they faced all year. This Yankee lineup is top to bottom, a great lineup. Every single hitter can hit at any point, at any given point. You've Luke Voigt, who hit 22 home runs, just homered last night, could be hot. Gleyber Torres hit a home run again. Second home run this postseason. He got another hit after he got hit in the shin before that. So if that's a spark for those guys in the middle of the lineup, you need 4, 5, and 6 hitting. No matter who 4, 5, and 6 is, if the middle of the lineup is hitting, LeMahieu's going to hit. Judge has not been hitting. Hicks has a 400 on-base percentage. He walks a lot. He gets a lot in a lot of deep counts. You're not going to have to worry about those 2 guys. It's just about Judge. Right now it's about Judge. Urshela has not been hitting either. Urshela gets hot and then he doesn't, but he's also, one of the best defenders now. I think he's proven that he's one of the best third basemen in the league. So we have those guys who can come up and hit, and we have those guys who can obviously, contribute whenever they're plugged in, like Brett Gardner, Clint Frazier. They've been platooning the last couple games. Gardner got 3 hits last night. So at the end of the day, I am concerned for our bullpen and our pitching. If Garrett Cole does not come out and throw a good game, he allowed 3 runs in the first game, which is not like, I mean, it has been like him. He finished well. His last pitch was, an extremely fast 100-mile-per-hour fastball, which he, the, the problem with Garrett Cole is, he's going to go out there. He's going to produce a bunch of good innings. He's going to get through a quick 1, 2, 3 inning in the first couple innings. And then later in the game, he starts to lose his stuff a little bit. They start to get on base, but he gets out of those jams. Aces are supposed to do that. Speaking of aces, let's transition into the Cubs. What happened with them?
When you can't hit, you can't win. That's all. That's all I'm going to say.
You're pitching though. You Darvish.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you can't hit, you can't win. Darvish limited the Marlins to 2 runs. If you can't put up more than 2 runs, you can't win playoff baseball. It's been the same theme of the Cubs the last 3 seasons, ever since we won the World Series. 2017, yeah, we made a run to the NLCS, but we got extremely lucky against the Nationals in the NLDS. 2018, we lost on game 163 to the Brewers. The next day, we lost at home in a 13-inning game to the Rockies. That was a disappointment because what's the reoccurring theme? The Cubs can't hit in the postseason lately. 2019, we don't make the playoffs. Joe Madden gets fired. We bring in David Ross. We have this great season this year where we won about 33 games, won the division, got to play at home against Miami, arguably, which looked like the worst team in the playoffs out of all 8 that qualify. I was probably the happiest person that we got to play the Marlins because I knew they had decent pitching. Like, I knew they were okay pitching, but I knew the Cubs were just an all-around better team. But, like, that being said, if you can't hit in the playoffs, you can't win. Ian Happ and Jason Hayward was our entire offense in the entire postseason this year. It's disappointing. Like, I'm very happy that Ian Happ is finally, established himself as that leadoff hitter that the Cubs have needed. He was going the entire postseason. Chris Bryant, Javi Baez, Anthony Rizzo, they all combined for, I believe, 0-24.
Yeah, it was
maybe like
I watched those games.
24.
You knew when they got up, they weren't going to put much effort into it. They weren't going to actually foul balls off. They weren't even going to make contact with the ball. They weren't even making good swings at that point. It was a given, the fact that you guys were going to lose that series, whether it was in 2 games or 3. I feel awful for you guys, but at the end of the day, it is the most important thing in the postseason.
I don't. If you can't hit,
I do. I mean, I'm not a Cubs fan. It sucks that you guys couldn't hit.
Yeah, but that's
your pitching was so on.
Our pitching was great. Yeah, Kyle Hendricks pitched a great first game. We ended up losing 5-1. We were up 1-0, but the offense couldn't get going. Javi Baez got dropped down to the 7 slot, the 7 hole.
Yeah, it was pathetic.
That's how bad he was this season.
For a former MVP candidate.
He was an MVP candidate who was the number 2 in MVP voting in 2018, gets dropped to the 7th spot. Yes, Christian Yelich didn't have that great of a season either, but he still put up numbers. He still was able to produce. Javi Baez couldn't do shit this season. Excuse my language, but Javi Baez couldn't do anything. It was disappointing to watch.
Completely fair.
It was disappointing. But at the same time, he's a showman. He needs the fans there. He feeds off the atmosphere. And that just shows how, the Cubs were, and Javi, for example, were impacted by no fans at the baseball games. But at the same time, you got to get that from somewhere. And, Ian Happ was able to get it going. Jason Hayward was able to actually have his arguably best season hitting for the Cubs. But if you're Javi Baez, that's disappointing. Chris Bryant, I think we trade him or Schwarber. That's the only way you fix the offense. We need to reload in our farm system. We need to get prospects. We also need. I would like another bullpen armor too, and maybe a starter to replace John Lester because he's gone. But man, like the 1-2 punch next year for the Cubs, Darvish and Kyle Hendricks. Again,
still
the
looking
Cubs
good.
Are only gonna go as far as their hitting lets them. 3 years ago, I would have said they're only gonna go as far as the pitching allows them to go. Now we're saying the hitting, which is something I never thought I'd say. It's sad. Yeah, so if I'm Theo Epstein, he has 1 more year left on his deal. He's, he can figure out how to make it work, or he's just got to start over because the Cubs will be starting over in 2022. You will not see that core out in 2022 as you will in the beginning.
Which is a good thing. I think you obviously have Javi Baez you could build around, but you have a lot of other players, Ian Happ, who you guys obviously could build around also, but you have other replaceable players. I know Rizzo's your captain. I know you love Rizzo, but
Rizzo will never leave the Cubs. Don't even say it. Don't even say it. We're not trading him. Don't even. Don't even go there.
If
You
you guys are
cannot
going to
trade
rebuild,
Anthony Rizzo.
if you guys want to rebuild, you need to get rid of at least one of your. It's going
Chris
to be
Bryant
Brian
or
or
Kyle Schwarber. No, it's
Good.
Chris Bryant or Kyle Schwarber.
Okay, but Schwarber's not a guy who's going to get. You guys aren't going to trade him for great assets. Like
No, we're not.
Solid.
That's why we're
He's
trading
solid.
Chris Bryant.
Good.
That's why we're trading Chris Bryant.
Honestly, yes, I definitely advocate for that because Chris Bryant was absolutely atrocious this year.
I hate to say
last week.
Chris Bryant's been atrocious the last 3 years. Ever since he's not atrocious. He's had to deal with a lot of injuries. So I do understand. 2019, he had a lot of injuries. But this year, again, he was injury riddled, only playing 34 games. But those 34 games were pretty much atrocious. I think he barely hit 200. And same with Bias. Bias's issue is he just has to become more composed at the plate. You know, he got back to his 2017 mindset where it's, ooh, slider in the dirt. I'm going to swing at that. Ooh, slider in the dirt. I'm going to swing at that. 0-2. And instead of, hey, they're probably going to throw me a slider in the dirt. Let's take it. That was Javi's problem. He just probably got it in his own head. Without fans there, it's a little harder to put on his magic show, as he calls it. But that's all I really want to talk about the Cubs for because, you know, without offense, you can't win. You're seeing it now in these games. You know, the Yankees had to put up 5 runs last night. Usually the Yankees, Rays, whoever's win, puts up more than 5 runs.
Yeah.
The Dodgers and Padres series, winners of those, Dodgers put up more than 5 runs in each of those games. You can't win in the postseason without hitting. And yeah, the Padres did look good. I think if they add Trevor Bauer in the offseason, they're going to be ridiculous next year. And I think they're actually going to make a run against the Dodgers next year.
Well, okay, wait. On that topic, let's transition to the NLCS.
Okay.
Dodgers versus Braves. Who do you have and why?
I'm going to take the Dodgers. I think this is a no-brainer. As good as the Braves look and as good as, you know, I think they can be, Freddie Freeman isn't hitting that well right now, which really hurts them. He had a better game last time. I think he went like 2 for 4, 2 for 5, which is better than what he's been doing.
He's the MVP. He's the MVP.
But Acuna has to get going. I don't think he's been going that much recently, which is nice. Like the Braves did rock the Marlins, but it's the Marlins. You know, their pitching staff got exposed because the Braves can actually hit. But I just don't think if you're the Dodgers, you're going to be facing. Who are you facing? You're facing Clayton Kershaw, probably game 2. You're facing Walker Buehler, Dustin May at least twice, and I believe I'm missing someone. But just those 3 pitchers there, I mean, that's game over. And
at the end of the day, with the 1-2 punch of you know, just we're talking about there's two different 1-2 punches on the
Justin
team.
Turner, Corey Seager fully healthy finally.
Yeah, and that's scary.
Max Muncy who can go off on any minute. That's scary.
Mookie Betts is definitely the surefire second best player in baseball. I think that's not even a conversation anymore. It never was, in my opinion. But he's really shown himself to be, you know, irreplaceable wherever he goes. I thought that was mainly a product. He was mainly a product of his environment in Boston. I think I thought he was gonna do good, but like once I saw him get that long extension, I thought that maybe he's gonna find a home there. Because when the Red Sox traded him, I did not think the Dodgers were gonna have enough money to pay him over 1 year. I thought it was just gonna be a one year trade. That's why they didn't give up much. They gave up nothing. For Verdugo, yes, solid player. Verdugo and Jeter Downs for Mookie Betts, who should really garner let's be honest here. If Mookie Betts is getting traded in any other atmosphere by any other team that isn't the Boston Red Sox, screw them, they are probably getting more than 3 top 5 prospects for him.
More than 3 top 5 prospects and at least 2 first-round picks.
Yes.
That's a hefty price. And the fact that the Red Sox got duped that much. And it's funny because all the Red Sox fans were like, oh, we'll get him back next year. 2 days later, we signed him 13-year, $350 million, whatever it was.
Love seeing Red Sox fans upset.
It's fitting. It's honestly fitting that happened to the Red Sox. So I'm not surprised.
Wait. So I also think that the Dodgers will win this series. I think they win in 5. I don't see this series going over 5 games. With their pitching and their hitting and just every single, they have a lot of depth. This team is probably going to win the World Series. I'm very afraid to face them as a Yankee fan, but we're not even at that point. So I'm not even going to talk about that. But it's they're not a beatable team. They are that good. They are that talented.
The biggest thing for the Dodgers right now is Kershaw is not pitching like typical Kershaw playoffs. He's
I know.
actually pitching well
When
in
is
the
it gonna
playoffs
happen?
right now.
When is it gonna happen? There's no fans.
Exactly.
There's no fans.
That's
this
why
is
he's been
not the
pitching
same.
well.
This is not the same atmosphere.
No,
the playoff
not at all.
atmosphere is not the same. It's not the same without fans. I'm sorry. Wherever you play it in San Diego, you played in Texas, you played in Los Angeles,
They're playing in
played
bubbles.
Houston. It doesn't matter.
Bubbles.
Bubbles. Yes, bubbles. So there's still no fans there. There will be fans in the NLCS. There will be fans in the World Series.
Thank
But
God.
the fact of the matter is you will not see a typical Clayton Kershaw postseason because there's no fans. There's no pressure. There's literally no pressure. He's looking forward. He's seeing his catcher. He's seeing the batter, and he's seeing the umpire. There's no one else in his eyes.
It's basically a spring training World Series.
It is. It is. I know as a Cubs fan, you're going to tell me that this year is not legitimate.
No, I'll tell you it's legitimate.
Okay, good.
Any year's legitimate.
Because my roommate Jake, who's a Cubs fan as well, says this is not a normal year. So.
Well, hey, first of all,
no, I'm not saying it's not a normal year. He's saying that it doesn't count because they lost.
It completely counts because every sport is doing this. Every sport has built a bubble. You can't say, maybe in 20 years looking back, they'll be like, oh, 2020, that was coronavirus year. It's still a year. They're still giving out a trophy. And as David Ross once said, if they're giving out a trophy, I want it. So
well, he didn't get it.
Yeah, obviously he didn't get it. Oh, and also Don Mattingly, absolute lock for manager of the year, whatever odds that is. I will be taking it, and I will be throwing.
Let's go Yankees.
Decent money. I actually won't because I don't really gamble that much. Mom and Dad, if you're still watching this by now, but
no, you don't gamble, right? No, of course not.
Of course not.
No.
Who gambles?
But I good for Don Mattingly, good for Derek Jeter, who somehow put together a team that made it to the second round of the postseason.
And a team that's a pitcher and like a cornerstone shortstop away from being very good next year.
Can you imagine if they never traded away Giancarlo Stanton, Yelich, and
Ozuna,
and JT Realmuto
and Ozuna,
JT Realmuto? Yeah. I mean, they had four stars. That's 1 through 4. No, that's a 2 through 5 in the lineup with easy 90 wins.
Oh, and then they had D. Gordon as their shortstop too, who's your number 1 hitter. Who, if he bunts and gets on base.
Also they had Jose Fernandez, which is just really unfortunate. Which terrible loss. Like they were set.
Looking back at it, they were set, but they couldn't pay them. That was Miami's issue. They couldn't pay these guys to keep playing, so they had to ship them all out.
Yeah, because they spent all their money on that ugly ass stadium.
And those terrible jerseys that they had. Thank God they got rid of those. Those were disgusting. The orange and the yellow
the
and
orange, the green.
They went to Miami and lost the Florida aspect of the Marlins. Thank God they changed those. But looking back on it, that Marlins team was loaded, and I'm excited to see what the Marlins do in the next couple of years. I think they're going to be a good team.
Yeah, definitely. And I 100% trust Derek Jeter to do whatever he's got to do to make that team competitive because he did this year, and we've seen it in the past with every team that he was captain of. So he has the leadership skills. He has the ability to get his team to do exactly what he wants, but does he have the ability to put together a good roster? And we'll see that in the next coming years. Let's talk about the ALCS. Let's talk about the fact that the Astros made it to the ALCS, their 4th year in a row. I'm not happy about it. I'm sure you aren't either.
I mean, that's just
that's lucky. They didn't face the Rays or the Yankees yet. I'm sorry. They've always gotten the easiest
or the White
ways.
Sox. They got out of playing
the White Sox. They didn't face anyone hard.
They faced a Twins team that can't win in the playoffs.
They don't win. They've lost 18 straight games. 18 straight games in the playoffs.
And they avoided the White Sox. God, I would have loved to see Houston against the White Sox in a series. That would have been special. But they walked their way right into it. Carlos Correa is still a baby, so nothing really changes there.
Mm-hmm. Good for him that he's hot, but let's see one game with potentially the Yankees, and we could throw one pitch at him. I just hang
on. Do you hear that? It's my trash can in the background. It's not making any noise.
Oh yeah, I'm hearing that too now. Yeah. Bang, bang, bang. Not anymore, though. Not anymore.
Not this year.
Not anymore. I hope. You never know. How would anyone figure it out? I mean, I'm not. They're definitely not cheating because if they cheated, they'd probably be banned as a franchise. But Rob Manfred left a lot of leeway there for them to continue their cheating ways. I don't know. It's the fact they didn't discipline any player or any other manager besides
it's a disgrace.
They didn't any other coach besides the manager. But the Astros made it for the 4th straight year Do you see this team making it to the World Series?
Good
again?
for you. God, no. I don't think they could beat whoever wins the Rays-Yankees series. I just don't think they have the pitching to beat
I think
them.
yeah.
They have the
I
off.
think
They
either
for sure have the offense. Like,
yeah
cheating
yeah
scandal aside, from a complete analytical standpoint, that Astros lineup is dangerous. Correa, as much as we hate him, he's a great player. Altuve, meh, not this year. Try again next year. Bregman is still a good player. Yuli Gurriel is still a good player. Like, they have the pieces. They have the good players. But I just think that the Yankees or the Rays, whoever comes out of that series, is gonna win the
yeah
AL.
yeah.
And if
I
the
think
Astros win the AL, I hope to God the Dodgers trounce them in the
destroy
playoff
them.
in the World Series.
Destroy them. I
I
mean,
hope.
Dodgers really need some some payback, some redemption. The Yankees deserve payback and redemption too. But we're gonna see either one or the other, or none at all. If I mean, I don't think Atlanta's gonna win. I think Atlanta's gonna lose. We talked about that.
Yep.
But I do think that the Astros are going to lose to either one of the Yankees or the Rays. I think their pitching staff is not good enough to last a full 7-game series. This is not a 5-game series anymore. This is back to 7. And bullshit that there's no days off again. So
I think that's stupid.
Like,
I don't
it doesn't
like the days
I understand that we're already almost in the middle of October. It's October 9th as of today. So the ALCS and the NLCS is probably going to start. I don't know what it is. Probably
I think it starts Monday. I think it starts on Monday.
Okay, yeah. So the fact of the matter is that they obviously want to finish this as fast as possible. They want to get a normal season in so they could start next season at the normal time, which no other sport is doing, to be fair.
And
besides the NFL.
The MLB will, like, there's no question, even if it goes a couple days into November. The regular season, the 2016 season, the Cubs won the World Series on November 3rd. The season still started 6 months later, or whatever, 4 months later. So, there's not a real worry. So I don't understand why they're trying to rush through games. But I guess that's just the MLB trying to get viewership. And they'll get it because the NBA Finals will be over after tonight. And so will that's really who.
We'll talk about the NBA Finals.
We'll get to the NBA Finals in a little. I don't want to go too in depth on the NBA Finals because I'll just let you run with that. But first, let's talk NFL before we get into NBA.
Let's do it.
So here we go. The Giants, you're 0-4. The NFC East is a shit show, and the Jets are just as bad. Bryce, what are your thoughts on all three of those?
Well, first off, let's talk about the Giants. Let's talk about how the Giants are an actual dumpster fire right now. Joe Judge, great coach. I think he does not have the personality, does not have anyone to actually play well with.
Do you actually like Joe Judge, though?
I think he's a good coach. Like, what on that team is giving you any reason to think that he's not doing a good job? Because this isn't him. This cannot be put on him. This is one of the worst talent-wise teams in the league. Also managed because Dave Gettleman needs to be fired. I think after this year, he's gone. I think that's not even a question, but I do think they keep Joe Judge on. This is just really bad time for John Mara and Steve Tisch. This is one of the worst ownership periods, I think, in our history. We've only made one postseason. We've only made one playoff since we won our last Super Bowl. Thankfully have seen 2 Super Bowls in my life. Thank Tom Coughlin and Eli Manning for that, but no one else. All I'm saying is that they need to take a look in the mirror and tell themselves what is going wrong. They need to come to an understanding why they are running this team like a 5th grade, high school, not a 5th grade. That those two don't go together.
Like our Pee Wee football team.
A 5th grade travel football team. That's how this team is being run by Dave Gettleman with no plan whatsoever. Speaking of,
no
terrible
plan.
teams, let's talk about the Jets with no plan. Let's talk about that. The Jets are even worse, probably, in my opinion. I think that if this season turns out as bad as I think it's going to turn out, the Jets and the Giants will have back-to-back 1 and 2. I think one of the teams will win a game, but the Giants may not. I really don't think the Giants, after losing Saquon Barkley, will have any. They have no offense. They literally cannot do anything on offense. They almost beat the Bears, which is great. We responded really well to losing Saquon Barkley in that game. But I think that was a one-time thing.
The Giants have lost really close games. The Bears game was a very close game. The Bears are lucky to be 4-1 right now, but I'll get into that in a minute. But you've lost games against the Rams. That was 17-9. That's a lot closer than I thought it would be. I really did. I thought that was going to be a blowout because the Rams played so well the week before.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys have put up a good fight, and that's just a credit to Joe Judge and getting, these worst talented guys to actually compete against the good teams. So really, really credit to him. I don't think he's the problem. You just run up the roster. And the Jets, man, they're just bad.
Yeah.
There was the old song back in 2011 that was like the New York Jets suck. That's this year all over again, man.
100%.
Butt fumble is going to come soon. And poor Sam Darnold, He was your cornerstone quarterback that you drafted 3 years ago, and he's going to get most likely going to get replaced by Trevor Lawrence, who
hopefully we get Trevor Lawrence, the Giants.
Would you get rid of Daniel Jones for Trevor Lawrence? Okay, that's a no-brainer.
I think Mel Kiper Jr. has been saying this, Todd McShay, all these guys. If Trevor Lawrence, if a team has the chance, at the number one pick, gets the number one pick, Trevor Lawrence is going to be the number one pick, no matter what team gets it. At the end of the day, he's a generational talent that doesn't come along very often. So it's a no-brainer for all these teams who have the number one pick. But as of right now, Adam Gase is the worst coach in the NFL. I think he's an absolute idiot. He is a bumbling idiot. I don't even know what to tell you when I watch their games. He has no idea what he's doing. The fact that Peyton Manning was the guy who recommended him as the coach of the Jets, and they listened to Peyton Manning, which is one of the dumbest things ever. It was a really stupid idea then, and it's a stupid idea now. Adam Gase, I mean, could you not tell from the first press conference where he came out looking like this? Like, Adam Gase is just...
He was like,
I can't even, he's like, Adam Gase is an utter disgrace. Him and the Giants management, because I don't think that the Jets management, their front office is that bad. I don't think they've been doing that bad of a job. They signed CJ Mosley, who decided not to play this year. They signed Le'Veon Bell. That wasn't their fault that he didn't turn out to be what they wanted him to be. They drafted Sam Darnold, but then they hired Adam Gase, which is so dumb.
But the good news,
Adam Gase is the worst.
Yeah. The good news, though, is the Jets do have a plan. They just don't have a plan at head coach. When they need to fire their head coach and restart, I would give who's the Jets GM? I don't know off the top of my head.
I forgot. I don't even.
Okay, but you give
Joe Douglas.
I would give Joe Douglas maybe one more shot at a head coach, and if that doesn't work in 2 to 3 years, then you fire and you rebuild and you do all that stuff. But I think the Jets have had decent talent. They maybe need another wide receiver and an offensive line.
They don't need another wide receiver. They need 3 more wide receivers. They
and an
no one at
offensive
wide receiver.
line and a defensive. They need a lot of things, and they don't really.
It was like that one. No, the Jets are like that one draft where it was like team needs for the Knicks, and it's at everything. That's the Jets right now.
Okay.
And don't even get me started about New York sports as a whole. It is an absolute joke. If the Yankees lose this game, there's nothing to look forward to besides the Brooklyn Nets. Who cares about the Brooklyn Nets? New York sports collectively has won, I think it's 3 less championships over the last 20 years than Tampa Bay. We have 4 more franchises. We have 2 NBA franchises. We have 2 NFL franchises. We have 2 MLB franchises. And we have 3, technically 3, because if you're counting the Devils, because they're only 30 minutes away, 20 minutes away.
And technically
speaking, 3 NHL franchises.
The Bills are in New York. The Bills too. But the Bills are 4-1.
The Bills are good right now. The Bills are good.
The Bills are looking great.
I don't count them because they're not in the New York metropolitan area. They're upstate New York. They're near Niagara Falls. They're up same
they're
state.
Basically Canada. They're like
they are
NFL.
They are.
If it's not like Minnesota, or Seattle, they're Canada's NFL team.
But I think at this point, it's about time that people are starting to get on the fact that New York sports, as a whole, collectively, is a fucking joke. I'm sorry. I don't care. This is one of the most aggravating, frustrating things I've gone through throughout the past few years. The Knicks have always been a joke. We know that. The Jets, the Mets, they're always going to be terrible. I understand that. But let's talk about the Giants. Let's talk about the Mets. Not the Mets. To be fair, Steve Cohen, I'm talking about from the future. They should be good. They have money now. They don't have the Wilpons or the Mets refusing to spend money.
The Mets also got very unlucky with the Syndergaard injury. Marcus Stroman didn't really play that much this season. So you give it to the Mets. I think the Mets are going to be fine. But the rest of New York is a show. And okay, all right. Before we move on from New York sports, because I know we can talk about this for hours
all day.
What is your prediction on the team and the record that the team has who wins the NFC East?
I think it's going to be the Cowboys at 6-10. I think it's going to be a 6-10 year, if not 5-11, because it is the worst division in NFL history. I don't think you could find any other division because it's either the NFC East is really good or really bad, and this year is one of those occasions of really bad.
And the fact that Philadelphia is winning the NFC East at 1-2-1, the team behind them, it's not Dallas, it is the Washington football team.
Yeah, they're 1-3, right?
A team without even a logo or team name.
The football team. The football team.
The football team is
football. It could be any team. It could be any football team.
And they were almost first place in that. They were almost first place. Thank God to Carson Wentz not being able to put away the Bengals.
He's
We're almost
the
first
worst.
place.
He's awful. He is terrible.
It's so
I think
sad.
Carson Wentz. I think Carson Wentz is the worst. I think he's the worst quarterback in the NFC East. I think he's worse than Dwayne Haskins. I think he's worse than Daniel Jones. I think he's awful. Ever since the tearing of the ACL and then Nick Foles going on to winning a Super Bowl, I think he saw that and was like, oh, wow, like I had a really good season. The reason why they're in that position when Nick Foles took over was because of the fact that, Carson Wentz was doing really well.
Yeah.
And then he has not had a similar season to what he had in 2018.
And speaking of big Nick Foles, as Khalil Mack called him last night in the Thursday night post-game interview, the Bears are a surprising 4-1.
Speaking about it, this is all you.
Don't ask me
this
how they're 4-1. We're
you should have lost to us. You should have lost to us.
DeAndre Swift drop, a
yes,
Daniel Jones better throw, and
any competent quarterback, competent quarterback,
and a Falcons implosion from being 0-4. And Brady not forgetting what down it is from being 0-4. I have friends of mine are Bears fans, and the fact that like one of them is telling me, "Oh my God, like you're wrong. Like a win is a win. Yeah, a win is a win, and it doesn't matter how you get the win. But the Bears are so lucky to be 4-1 right now. We should really be 0-4, and it's that difference. And yes, the defense played great last night. The offense has been atrocious. The defense held Tom Brady and his offense last night, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, to 19 points. 19 points. Yeah, your offense put up 20, but usually in those games, good offenses with playoff teams put up 30-plus points. I don't know if the Bears have put up 30 points yet this season. I think they have.
Okay, I understand. I understand anyone saying that, but
we're not winning. We're not winning.
That is the Bears, though. That is what they've always been. They've always been the lockdown defense.
I don't disagree.
They've never had a good quarterback. They've never literally had a solid quarterback. I'm just saying, like,
no, we haven't.
Cutler. It was Jay Cutler. I mean, like,
Jay Cutler was probably the franchise best quarterback. Beats Jim McMahon, even though Jim McMahon won the Super Bowl. But
he hated Cutler. He was carried to the Super Bowl by his defense.
I'm not disagreeing
with the refrigerator.
Right now. Yeah.
Walter Payton, the third best running back of all time behind Barry Sanders.
Yeah. Sweetness.
And I mean,
the Bears, look, we're lucky to be 4-1. They're 4-1, but they now have the hardest remaining schedule in the NFL. So it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out. And I believe the only team under 500 they play pretty much the rest of the season is the Lions and the Vikings.
I think you guys will finish 9-7. To be fair,
I'll be happy finishing.
I think that would be a good season.
I'll be happy finishing out the season 9-7, and then we go and we draft a quarterback in the first round. But if we can't get Fields,
are you guys going to draft a quarterback? Are you guys going to draft a quarterback?
I don't know.
You guys are not getting Trevor Lawrence. That's out of
No. Obviously, but you have to include him. We're not getting Trevor Lawrence. Basically,
unless you want to give up like 2 first-round picks to get him.
2, I would say 1 in Khalil Mack, and we're not doing that. The Jets, no, thank you. We're not giving up Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack finally showed up.
Don't say the Jets. Don't say the Jets. The Giants have looked much worse than the Jets, to be honest. At this point, at least the Jets have offensive weapons. At least they have a running back. The Giants have no one. With Sterling Shepard not playing and Darius Slayton being the number 1 receiver, Evan Ingram is by far the best guy on that offense.
It's sad.
Kevin Zeitler is the one good offensive lineman. We've talked about the Giants enough. I'm sorry. Like I have to you guys are in a much better position than we are. Your defense is the best, one of the best in the league. Khalil Mack by himself is as good as the 3 other best, defensive linemen. You know that. Everyone knows this. Khalil Mack is probably the best defender.
The only thing that the Bears are missing right now is Eddie Goldman, who is our nose tackle, who opted out of the season because he was pretty much helped our run defense. Yeah, but Hicks and Goldman, it's not the same with one and the other. Having both in there makes us we're right now a top 5 defense in the NFL. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
With Eddie Goldman, we are arguably
your secondary is incredible. Like, come on.
Thank God. Like Ryan Pace had a great draft this year. Jalen Johnson is a stud. Cole Kmet, all right, like he's gonna get better. He's young. He's behind Jimmy Graham, who's playing great. Kyle Fuller's
one of the best.
Obviously, Kyle Fuller, and same with Eddie Jackson.
Yeah.
And then we drafted Darnell Mooney in the 5th or 6th round. And he's the sneaky little fast guy from Tulane, and he's really good.
You guys love little fast guys.
Yeah, Anthony Miller is like 6 feet barely. Tariq Cohen 5'6". David Montgomery is like
5'9".
Yeah,
he's 6. No, he's honestly 6 feet. But like you don't know.
He's built like he's a good runner, but I just don't understand why we're running Cordero Patterson through the tackles. I think that's beyond. No,
it's
stupid.
smart. I understand that you have to start running him outside, but
we don't have the offensive line to do that. That's the issue. is we need an offensive lineman with James Daniels out. I mean, that hurts even more. But let's move on from the Bears because the Bears are 4-1. All right, so Bryce, tell me, let's talk a little bit about the COVID outbreaks amongst NFL teams. The Titans, Pats, and potentially the Chiefs, all of their games are in jeopardy this weekend. Because as we know, the Titans have kept on getting positive cases. The Patriots, the Gilmore tested positive. And because Gilmore tested positive, guess who he was with the night before he tested positive, who was right up a night or two before?
Cam?
Well, no, not Cam, but Pat Mahomes. He, at the end of the game, went over to Patrick Mahomes.
How did I not know?
They went up close.
No.
So the whole joke on the internet right now is if you can't beat him on the field, you got to beat him off the field. And COVID is beating him off the field. You keep Pat Mahomes
Very smart. Very smart.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
So like how Bill Belichick is that?
It is very along the lines of something that Bill Belichick would do. He probably did it on purpose.
Obviously, he did not do it on purpose, but
I don't know. I don't know.
Would you be surprised if he did it on purpose?
He spied on teams. He's deflated footballs. He's done a lot of stuff. He's done a lot of shady shit over the years. So it's not out of the question. Yeah, it's not out of the question. We don't know. We cannot say definitively yes or no.
Yeah.
But speaking of the COVID cases, who could say they didn't see this coming? This is an absolute mess. This is exactly what not being in a bubble, especially with 30 individual cities, 29 individual cities that we're talking about here. This is completely expected. This is not surprising at the slightest. And they need to figure out how they're going to finish the season without having to reduce and, potentially, God forbid, they have to reduce the schedule to 15, 14 games with some of these teams. But they can't keep just rescheduling games for Monday and Tuesday because what if an actual entire team, because at practice, they're not social distancing. They're not when they're in the film rooms, they're not social distancing. Those film rooms only could hold 60 people. They can't.
I doubt they're even wearing masks. Like honestly, I don't even think they're wearing
practice.
Masks.
No, the coaches are required to. But only because the coaches are older and it's different. It's a different situation. These players really can't ask to play with masks.
That much older.
Okay,
but like a guy like Andy,
we're talking about Pete Carroll. Yeah, Pete Carroll is the oldest coach in the league. So at the end of the day, the NFL, Roger Goodell, who sucks, he needs to figure out a way to curb this and make sure this isn't a problem going forward. He needs to do exactly what the MLB did. I'm not a fan of Rob Manfred, but the way they handled the earlier COVID cases, the fact they did get another positive case after the Marlins whole outbreak was extremely impressive and exactly what the NFL should take from. That's all I have to say on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And okay, so last topic in the NFL then we'll get into NBA and wrap up the podcast for today. What do you think is the biggest surprise team, and what do you think is the biggest slumping team right now that will turn it around?
I think the biggest surprising team, in my opinion, both ways, I think it's the Falcons. I think the fact that they're 0-4 and one of the worst looking teams in all of the NFL with a solid offense, Matt Ryan, he has two of the best weapons in Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones. Julio Jones has been getting hurt, but they've Todd Gurley, their defense has been awful. It's been atrocious.
And their tight end is Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, so they have the weapons to not be 0-4. They're by far the most surprising thing. They never should have lost the Cowboys. They choked just like usual. I really, really think that Dan Quinn should be fired within these next couple games. Yeah. He needs to go. Get him as far away from Atlanta as possible because he choked away that Super Bowl. He wasn't fired after that because he beat the Super Bowl, but he should have won a Super Bowl. And now he's not a Super Bowl coach, and he's completely failing his team with his play calling and with his leadership. He's not a good coach, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know who you think is the most surprising team, but that is extremely surprising.
All right. So I'm going to go, my most surprising team right now is the Cleveland Browns. Now, yes, they are 3-1. They are good. That's why it's surprising. First of all, it's a team from Cleveland which is a historically horrendous franchise. I'm very happy that they're surprising in a good way. They finally are able to put it all together. They're 3-1. Baker Mayfield is finally looking like the stud quarterback we all thought he would be when he was drafted in 2018.
He's not. It's not.
Jarvis is playing good. It's all Kevin Stefanski. He has made this offense dynamic. He has made this team interesting. And finally, Cleveland fans has something to be excited about. All right.
I think it's less Baker Mayfield than
add another surprising team, the Cincinnati Bengals at 1-2-1. Only because they're not in last in the division right now. They're in the
but they drafted a new quarterback that's not incompetent. I think exactly that in and of itself is enough for any team to go from 0-16 or whatever they. I'm not saying 0-16. I'm just saying,
They
because,
have a
with
win
the Giants
and
or
a
Jets,
tie.
you're going to see this. But yes, you're going to see a team that was not able to do much the year before turn into a dynamic offense because these kids are coming straight out of college. Speaking of, because there's only two of them this year, it's Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow. Like the rookie quarterbacks other than them are just proving themselves still. But those two guys have the
Tua is
ability.
going to be fine, but Tua's just they're giving him time to develop, which I agree with. I don't think they should play him. And the only reason Justin Herbert's in and is doing great, first of all, I knew he would be a good quarterback.
It's because
Tyrod Taylor got hurt.
You got hurt by the trainer.
It's so sad.
Stabbed him in the rib or something.
The trainer fully wanted Justin Herbert in, so he stabbed Tyrod Taylor in the rib. That's just a sad story. Yeah. I'm going to disagree with you that the Falcons are the most slumping.
You could not tell me before the season that the Falcons would start 0-4 though.
No, I could not. But you also have to look at the Minnesota Vikings, who are 1-3 and look god awful, just about as bad as
Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins has been playing like crap.
He's one of the most inconsistent players ever.
Does not look good right now. On top of that, the loss of Stephon Diggs is hurting that team way more than anyone thought they would, except me. I knew they would be this bad. I said to
Justin Jefferson now. They have another wide receiver.
But Justin Jefferson isn't Stephon Diggs. Maybe he'll be as good as Stephon Diggs in
a couple years. He can build into that. They still have Adam Thielen, who's obviously a wide receiver 1 at this point.
Yeah,
but they have Dalvin Cook, who's a top 5 running back in this league, in my opinion. So the 1-3 is extremely surprising. But again, I'm sticking by the fact that I think the Falcons, them going 0-4, is the most surprising because they have talent. They do have talent.
Yeah, they're definitely the biggest slumping team right now. They've blown leads to the Bears, not the Cardinals, the Browns, I think, the Cowboys.
The Cowboys, they were up 3 touchdowns with 8 minutes, and they lost.
Sad. It's really sad. All right, let's end football. Let's get into the NBA. The finals, or the last game is tonight / last night. Bryce, what are you thinking about Game 5? What are your thoughts there?
This is more about LeBron James's legacy than I think anything else. This is not, I don't think anyone on the radio or anyone discussing this game is talking about how much, the Heat are preparing for this game. Like, it's more about how LeBron's going to come out, how he's going to win this game, or how he's going to win one of the next 3 games, and how he's going to win his 4th championship. And quite frankly, I think that I think the series will end tonight. I feel like, yes, Miami has been making the series a lot closer the past 2 games. Jimmy Butler needs to do a lot, though. If he has a bad game, consider it over. It's done. So
I think it's done either way.
Yeah,
I predicted a couple weeks ago Lakers in 5, and right now I'm pretty right. But that was
looking good.
Consensus pick.
You're looking good right now. You're looking good right now. But I think that with Miami's 3 injuries, they're 3 really bad injuries. The fact that they lost Adebayo for the second 2 games, it was games 2 and 3. Dragic for probably the entire year. And Jimmy Butler had a little bit of a sprain. He's fine now, thankfully. But you're looking at a team that does not have the same amount of talent. They don't match up with Anthony Davis well. Adebayo is hurt right now, and he cannot match up with Anthony Davis because there's a center. Who's guarding the center? Kelly Olynyk? Like Myers Leonard? Like they don't have anyone in that team that could match up. Like it's Adebayo, and Adebayo is one of the most dynamic.
Adebayo is one of the player on the court. Solomon Hill is my favorite player on the court. No question.
But Adebayo is a dynamic player. He's going to be a really good player for the years to come. But he is not some guy who could stop one of the top 4 players in the NBA. And Anthony Davis. I think Anthony Davis is the 4th best player in the league. And you also have to stop LeBron James. LeBron James has not been as dominant as we've seen him in the past. He's not been hitting his shots a lot. He's not been hitting more than 2 threes a game. I think it's been like a max of 2 threes a game. His shooting has not been there. Yeah. But obviously his intellect and his basketball IQ, everything he does on the court is pre-planned and 2 steps ahead of everyone. He's, again, LeBron James. He's the 2nd or 1st best player of all time, and you really can't argue it either way because I don't want to get into that argument. But this game is a lot, falling on LeBron's legacy, and if he can get this done. And if he can't get this done within the next 2 games, Miami might have a chance.
And on top of that, they're wearing the Mamba jerseys tonight. If that adds
which they're 4-0.
Which it does. You're 4-0. This season, as they've said, it's all for Kobe, obvious reasons. But I don't see them losing tonight. 1, in those jerseys, they're not going to lose. 2, like you said, it's all about LeBron's legacy. This isn't, a Heat championship or a Lakers championship as much as it is a LeBron championship. It's LeBron's fourth ring. No one's gonna. Oh yeah, they'll be like, oh yeah. The Lakers won that year. Nah, LeBron.
I think Anthony Davis is gonna win. Finals MVP too.
I hope he does. It'd be cool not to see LeBron win MVP and to see Davis win MVP. But at the end of the day, if the Lakers win, I heavily would think that they would just give it to LeBron just to give it to LeBron.
Yeah. He's the leader. He's the guy on the court who does everything. He rebounds. He's a great playmaker. He obviously scores. He's one of the best scorers of all time, one of the most dominant scorers. But again, just to reiterate, nothing else matters besides the fact that there's two things at play here. There's two big stories behind the scenes. Three if you're counting the Heat, but I don't even want to talk about them right now. And the first thing is that Kobe Bryant, this is Kobe Bryant's team. The Lakers obviously extremely upset when Kobe Bryant died in January. They're going to do this for him. They're going to win this championship for Kobe. That's the bottom line. And number two is obviously LeBron. It's LeBron and his legacy and him winning a fourth championship and him getting to that point where now you can consider him in the same conversation. He has been in the same conversation as Jordan for the past probably 3-4 years, ever since he won in 2016. But now it's going to be more prevalent. You know what I mean? It's going to be more it's going to be more newsworthy. It's going to be it's going to be in everyone's Twitter mentions. It's going to be all over the place. And no one's going to shut up about it.
Yeah, headlines all over the country on ESPN and the magazines. Lakers win for Kobe. That's all.
Yeah,
that would be your headline. It's tragic, but they've used the tragedy as fuel for the future. And
just as Kobe wanted it, just as Kobe probably would have wanted it.
Yeah, he would have
mentality
to win. He would want them to win for him.
Yeah. I've been talking about this and I've said this. He was the biggest loss of our generation. Yeah. Out of everyone, it's as big as losing. I can't even. There's no one who no one taking that out. It's like you have to look back 50 years like Elvis Presley like guys like that. But for kids who grew up with Kobe Bryant winning championships and being one of the most dominant and physical players in the game, and then to lose him, and for the Lakers to have this whole redemption story of coming back, winning this after being, sitting at home for 3 months, basically, everyone else was, coming back in July and putting together one of the best playoff runs ever in the face of adversity, especially with whatever's going on with their team. Danny Green's terrible. And, they're going to, at the end of the day, in my opinion, they're going to pull this all together and they're going to win. I mean, it's not even really a question. The Lakers, I think, obviously will win. And if they don't, be the first one to call me out on it. That's all it is.
And I believe that's going to do it for our show this week. Thank you so much. If you stayed tuned for this, however long we went, usually we don't have people staying on for this, so no one's going to hear this. For Bryce Gelman, I'm Evan Kamiko. This has been the B&E podcast presented by 4th and 20 Media. We'll see you next week. I'm just so low.